Captain Elijah Harper stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, his eyes fixed on the massive holographic display that showed the incoming alien fleet. 57 vessels of various sizes, all larger than anything humanity had ever built, were moving steadily toward Earth. They had appeared just beyond Neptune's orbit 6 hours ago, and since then every military base on Earth and its colonies had gone to full alert. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," said Communications Officer Julia Reeves, her fingers dancing across her console. "It's not like anything we've seen before." Elijah nodded. "Send it to Dr. Wright immediately." In her lab 3 decks below, Dr. Olivia Wright was already analyzing the strange signals. As Earth's foremost xenolinguist, she had spent years preparing for this moment, though she had hoped first contact would be more peaceful. The message contained both audio and visual components, using mathematical sequences as a foundation for communication. It was complex but followed logical patterns she could decipher. After 2 hours of intense work, Olivia's hands trembled as she contacted the bridge. "Captain Harper, I've translated the message. You need to see this now." Minutes later, Elijah, along with his tactical officer, Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell, stood in Olivia's lab watching the translated message play on her screen. A tall, reptilian creature with crimson scales and 4 yellow eyes appeared. It wore ornate armor covered in symbols that Olivia had determined represented military achievements. "People of Earth," the translation overlay read, as the creature spoke. "I am Supreme Commander Krazoth of the Vexari Dominion. Your planet is now claimed by our empire. You have 72 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally. Resistance is futile and will result in your extinction. We have studied your civilization and know you cannot oppose us. Accept Vexari rule, and you may survive as servants. Refuse, and your species will be erased from the galaxy." The message ended abruptly, leaving the room in silence. "They've studied us?" Ryan finally asked. "How? We've barely ventured beyond Mars." Olivia pointed to her notes. "Based on their communication, they've intercepted our broadcasts. They specifically mention analyzing our battle narratives, which I believe means our entertainment. Movies, TV, shows, video games." Elijah frowned. "They think they know us based on fiction?" "It appears so," Olivia replied. "And there's more. I've analyzed the background of the video. The technology visible suggests they've conquered multiple species. Those symbols on Krazoth's armor? They're trophies representing defeated civilizations." Within the hour, Admiral Gregory Palmer had convened an emergency summit at Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. World leaders and military commanders joined both in person and via secure holographic links. The atmosphere was tense as Dr. Wright presented her findings to the assembly. Based on the linguistic markers and visual cues, the Vexari are a hierarchical, conquest-driven society, she explained. They believe we will either surrender immediately or mount a predictable, conventional defense that they can easily overcome. They've apparently done this many times before. President Laura Bennett leaned forward. "How advanced is their technology compared to ours?" Admiral Palmer gestured to the technical analysis on the main screen. "Their ships are powered by what appears to be exotic matter manipulation. Their weapon systems are similarly advanced. In a direct, conventional battle, we would be outmatched." The room filled with murmurs of concern and fear. Some military leaders argued for immediate surrender to save lives. Others proposed using Earth's nuclear arsenal in a last-stand defense. "Neither option is acceptable," Captain Harper said, stepping forward unexpectedly. All eyes turned to him. Despite being junior to many in the room, his reputation had earned him the right to speak. "The Vexari expect either submission or a predictable defense," he continued, "but they've made a critical mistake. They think they understand humanity based on our entertainment. They don't realize that our fictional battle narratives don't accurately represent our true warfare capabilities or strategies." He moved to the central display and brought up schematics of Earth's orbital infrastructure. "I propose we use their misconception against them. Instead of either surrendering or preparing the obvious defenses they're expecting, we implement something they'll never anticipate." For the next hour, Elijah outlined his plan. It was unconventional, risky, and depended on technologies that had never been tested in combat. By the end, the room was divided between those who thought it was brilliant and those who considered it suicidal. Admiral Palmer studied the proposal carefully before speaking. Captain Harper's plan goes against conventional military doctrine, but then we're not facing a conventional enemy. He looked around the room, and unconventional is precisely what the Vexari won't be expecting. President Bennett took only minutes to make her decision. We implement Captain Harper's strategy immediately. All resources are at your disposal, Captain. Over the next 2 days, Earth appeared to be in chaos to any watching Vexari. Instead of arming military satellites, civilian communication arrays were being modified with strange new components. Commercial ships were moving in seemingly random patterns rather than evacuating. The expected military buildup was minimal. Aboard the Vexari command ship, Intelligence Officer Vornak reported to Supreme Commander Krazoth with confusion. The humans are not responding as anticipated, Vornak said, displaying intercepted communications and satellite imagery. They appear disorganized. Some are preparing defenses, but they are scattered and inefficient. Others seem to be continuing normal activities. We've detected unusual energy signatures, but they don't match any weapon systems we recognize. Krazoth's 4 eyes narrowed. They are primitive and afraid. Their confusion is expected. Their entertainment shows they understand the concept of surrender. When our fleet moves closer, they will recognize the futility of resistance. There is one concerning development, Vornak added. We've intercepted communications referring to something called Project Orpheus. We cannot determine its purpose. It matters not, Krazoth dismissed. Our conquest of 12 worlds has taught us that inferior species always follow predictable patterns when faced with superior force. Prepare the fleet for the final approach. The deadline for their surrender is approaching. As the 72-hour mark neared, Dr. Wright joined Captain Harper on the Defiance Bridge. The Vexari are moving their fleet into formation, she noted, watching the tactical display. They still believe we'll either surrender or attempt a direct defense. Elijah nodded, a grim smile forming on his face. That's exactly what we want them to think. He opened a channel to all Earth Defense Forces. All units prepare to activate Phase 1 of Project Orpheus. The Vexari think they know humanity from our stories and films. It's time to show them that reality is much more inventive than fiction. Throughout the solar system, hidden preparations came to life as humanity prepared to teach the alien warlords a lesson they never expected. Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell stood before the massive tactical display in the underground command center beneath Geneva. Around him, military personnel from every nation worked with focused intensity. The room buzzed with activity as the deadline for Earth's surrender grew closer. The Vexari still think we're just running around like headless chickens, Ryan said to Dr. Samantha Cole, who had just arrived from her laboratory. Their surveillance shows exactly what we want them to see. Doctor, Cole nodded, her eyes tired from 3 days of nonstop work. As Earth's leading expert on experimental weapons technology, she had been pushing her team beyond all limits to prepare their part of Captain Harper's plan. The frequency modulators are ready, she said, pulling up schematics on her tablet. We've converted the global communications satellite network to emit the specific electromagnetic patterns that should disrupt their exotic matter drives. Ryan studied the data. You're sure this will work? We're betting everything on theoretical technology that's never been field tested. Theoretical until 3 days ago, Samantha corrected with a small smile. We successfully tested it against the materials we salvaged from that crashed scout ship in Arizona last year. The Vexari don't know we recovered that technology. Across the room, Chief Engineer Alan Rodriguez was directing a team of technicians who were modifying what appeared to be ordinary commercial spacecraft. No. The resonance chambers need to be aligned at exactly 47 degrees to match the Vexari shield frequencies, he insisted, demonstrating the correct positioning. They'll be expecting conventional weapons, not focused sound waves that can shatter their crystalline power cores. Alan had been a civilian engineer designing concert hall acoustics before being recruited for military research. His understanding of sound wave manipulation had proven unexpectedly valuable in developing countermeasures against the aliens. How many ships do we have ready? Ryan asked, joining Alan at his workstation. 36 modified freighters and passenger liners, Alan replied. Not much compared to their fleet, but they don't need to be powerful. They just need to get close enough to create the disruption field. In orbit above Earth, Captain Elijah Harper coordinated with space stations and the small fleet of actual military vessels humanity possessed. The ESS Defiant was positioned behind the moon, hidden from direct Vexari observation. Status report, Elijah demanded, pacing the bridge. Communications Officer Julia Reeves responded quickly. All civilian satellites have been reprogrammed according to specifications. The Vexari are still monitoring our broadcasts. They're seeing exactly what we want: panic, disagreement among world leaders, and haphazard defense preparations. And Project Orpheus? Ready to activate on your command, sir. On the Vexari command ship, Intelligence Officer Vornak was growing increasingly concerned as he reviewed the latest data on human activities. Supreme Commander, the humans continue to behave erratically, Vornak reported. Some of their vessels appear to be evacuating civilians to their moon base, while others are moving into what could be defensive positions. But the patterns make no tactical sense. Krazoth dismissed the concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. Their military doctrine, as observed in their battle narratives, is primitive and direct. They simply lack the coordination for an effective response. Their confusion confirms our intelligence. There is something else, Vornak persisted. We have detected unusual energy signatures from their satellite network. They appear to be attempting to modify communications equipment into weapons. This caught Krazoth's attention. Weapons? How primitive. Their technology cannot harm our vessels. That is the puzzling aspect, Supreme Commander. The modifications do not match any weapons profiles in our database, and we continue to intercept communications about this Project Orpheus. It appears to be their primary strategy, yet we cannot determine its nature. Krazoth's 4 eyes narrowed. It matters not. The deadline approaches. Prepare the fleet for the first wave of the assault. Target their military installations first, then their governmental centers. Once their leadership is eliminated, the rest will surrender. As the Vexari fleet began to move into attack formation, Lieutenant Mitchell coordinated a series of small, lightning-fast raids using Earth's few stealth ships. These vessels, using experimental cloaking technology, darted between the alien ships, gathering crucial data on their shield frequencies and power emissions. We've identified the resonant frequencies of their shield generators, Ryan reported back to Captain Harper. Dr. Cole is updating the disruption patterns now. In her laboratory, Dr. Cole worked furiously to incorporate the new data. This is it, she muttered to her team. Their shields operate on an oscillating frequency that changes every 143 seconds. If we time our disruption wave to match the pattern, we can create momentary gaps. Chief Rodriguez's team implemented the updates across their modified fleet of commercial vessels. The beauty of this plan, he explained to his engineers, is that they'll never see these ships as threats. Their scans will show them as ordinary transports with minimal modifications that they'll dismiss as futile attempts at defense. As the 72-hour deadline expired, the Vexari began their approach toward Earth. Their massive warships moved in a precise formation that had conquered 12 other worlds. Incoming transmission from the Vexari command ship, Julia announced on the Defiance bridge. Commander Krazoth's image appeared on screen. Your time has expired. You have not surrendered. Now witness the consequence of your defiance. Captain. Harper stood tall. We've received your message, Commander Krazoth. But before you proceed, I thought you might want to know something about humans that your entertainment research didn't reveal. Krazoth paused, a flicker of curiosity crossing his alien features. And what would that be, human? Elijah smiled. We never fight the way you expect us to. He nodded to Julia, who cut the transmission. Then he opened a channel to all Earth forces. All units initiate Project Orpheus. Phase 1 begin now. Throughout Earth's orbit, the modified satellite network activated, bathing the approaching Vexari fleet in carefully calibrated electromagnetic frequencies. At the same time, Chief Rodriguez's converted commercial vessels moved into seemingly random positions. On the Vexari command ship, alarms suddenly blared. Supreme Commander. Key. Vexari officer called out in panic. Our exotic matter drives are experiencing unexpected fluctuations. Shield integrity is dropping across the fleet. Vornak rushed to his console. The human satellites. They're emitting some kind of interference pattern that's affecting our power systems. Krazoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief as the first wave of his invasion force began to falter. For the first time in his 300-year military career, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. What is happening? He demanded. How can primitive humans possess such technology? Vornak's voice was grim. Supreme Commander, I believe we have gravely underestimated these humans. This must be Project Orpheus, and it's only just beginning. Commander Nicole Foster sat in the cockpit of her stealth fighter, hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid. 11 other pilots waited nearby in their own vessels, all using Dr. Benjamin Howard's quantum masking technology that bent light around, their ships making them virtually invisible to Vexari sensors. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle Leader, she said into her communication system. The first wave of Vexari ships is experiencing power fluctuations. Project Orpheus Phase 1 is working. Prepare to execute Phase 2 on my mark. Nicole watched. Her tactical display as 36 of Earth's converted commercial ships moved into position. From the outside, they looked like ordinary freighters and passenger liners with minimal defensive modifications. The Vexari had dismissed them as non-threats. That was their second mistake. On Earth, General Daniel Warren stood in the control center of the ground-based pulse cannon array. These massive weapons had been disguised as radio telescopes and weather monitoring stations. The Vexari had scanned them but detected nothing unusual, because the cannons weren't designed to fire directly at the alien ships. Pulse cannons charged to 80%, an operator reported. Resonance targeting system locked on designated spatial coordinates. Daniel nodded. Stand by for firing sequence. Wait for Commander Foster's strike team to engage. In his laboratory, Dr. Benjamin Howard monitored the quantum equations that flowed across his screens. For years, his theories about manipulating space-time through targeted energy pulses had been dismissed as too theoretical. Now everything depended on them being correct. The Vexari ships use a form of quantum entanglement in their communication systems, he explained to his team. If we can disrupt those entangled particles at precisely the right moment, we can cut off their ability to coordinate. In orbit, the first wave of Vexari warships struggled with failing systems, as Earth's satellite network bombarded them with electromagnetic frequencies that interfered with their exotic matter engines. Supreme Commander Krazoth watched with growing anger as his vanguard faltered. Launch the second wave, he ordered. Target those human satellites and destroy them. Captain Drekthar, commanding one of the lead vessels in the second wave, moved his warship forward. Unlike his Supreme Commander, Drekthar had studied human military history, not just their entertainment. Something about their scattered defense didn't feel right to him. Scan all approaching human vessels again, he ordered his crew. Focus on energy emissions, not weapons signatures. As his ship moved closer to Earth, Drekthar received the scan results and felt a chill run through his scales. Emergency transmission to the command ship. The humans are... His message was cut short as Commander Foster gave the order. Eagle Squadron, execute Phase 2 now. Nicole's stealth fighters suddenly decloaked directly behind the Vexari second wave. They fired specialized missiles that attached to the hulls of the alien vessels. Instead of exploding, the missiles began broadcasting the same disruption frequencies that the satellite network was emitting, but at much closer range. The same time, Chief Rodriguez activated the true purpose of the converted commercial ships. Hidden within their ordinary-looking hulls were powerful resonance amplifiers designed to create constructive interference with the satellite network signals. Resonance field established, Allen reported. Increasing amplitude now. Throughout Earth's orbit, the combined effect of the satellite's stealth fighter attachments and the resonance amplifiers created a web of energy that specifically targeted the exotic matter that powered the Vexari fleet. On the ground, General Warren received the signal. Pulse cannons, fire! The massive cannons around the world activated simultaneously, but instead of firing directly at the Vexari ships, they fired at carefully calculated points in space between them. The energy pulses created a pattern of resonance nodes that, when combined with the orbital disruption field, formed what Dr. Howard had named a quantum interference matrix. On Drekthar's ship, systems began failing rapidly. The humans are using our own technology against us, he shouted into the failing communication system. They've been studying us. This is a trap. His warning reached the command ship in fragments before his systems failed completely. Krazoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief as more than 20 of his ships suddenly lost power and began drifting. Impossible, he muttered. Their technology is primitive. Their tactics are straightforward. We studied their battle narratives. Intelligence Officer Vornak approached cautiously. Supreme Commander, I believe we misunderstood the nature of human entertainment. Their battle narratives are not accurate representations of their actual warfare capabilities. They are fiction, imaginative scenarios not meant to document real tactics. This revelation hit Krazoth like a physical blow. Are you saying we based our entire invasion strategy on human imagination rather than fact? It appears so, Supreme Commander. And there is more. We've detected unusual energy signatures from what we thought were civilian research vessels on the far side of their moon. They appear to be preparing for something else. On the ESS Defiant, Captain Elijah Harper received the reports with grim satisfaction. Phase 2 is successful. 23 Vexari vessels disabled. Their second wave is in disarray. Dr. Olivia Wright stood beside him, analyzing the Vexari communications they had intercepted. They're confused. Their whole strategy was based on what they thought they knew about us from our movies and TV shows. Elijah nodded. And now they're facing the real humanity. Begin preparations for Phase 3. In her stealth fighter, Commander Foster led her squadron in a series of hit-and-run attacks, attaching more disruptor devices to Vexari ships that were still operational. The alien vessels, designed for overwhelming firepower against conventional opponents, couldn't track the nimble human fighters that appeared and disappeared from their sensors. On one disabled Vexari cruiser, the alien crew worked desperately to restore power. They didn't notice the small team of humans that had attached a boarding pod to their hull. Major Lisa Peterson led her special operations team through the alien vessel, their specialized armor allowing them to move undetected. Remember, she whispered to her team, our priority is the central data core. We need to extract their fleet communications protocols. As Lisa's team penetrated deeper into the Vexari ship, Dr. Howard coordinated with Chief Rodriguez to prepare for Phase 3 of Project Orpheus. The modified commercial vessels are in position, Allen reported. Drone swarms ready for deployment. On your command. Krazoth, facing the first real challenge of his long military career, made a fateful decision. Launch all remaining ships. Full assault on the human homeworld. We will not be defeated by these primitives. As the third and largest wave of Vexari ships moved toward Earth, Captain Elijah Harper smiled grimly and opened a channel to all Earth forces. All units, prepare to execute Phase 3. The Vexari are about to learn that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake they could have made. Jack Morrison was not a military man. 6 days ago he had been flying cargo between Earth and the lunar colonies. Now he sat in the cockpit of humanity's most advanced prototype vessel, the Swift Arrow. The ship had been hidden in a secret facility, beneath the lunar surface for 3 years, waiting for a moment like this. All systems check complete, Jack said, his hands moving confidently over the controls. Swift Arrow ready for launch. The ship had been built using reverse-engineered technology from small pieces of alien tech that had been collected over decades. Its propulsion system was unlike anything publicly known, and its hull contained materials that could absorb and redirect energy. In his earpiece, Jack heard Captain Harper's voice. You're clear for launch, Morrison. Remember, your job is to draw their attention while the drone carriers move into position. Jack took a deep breath. Understood, Captain. One very obvious distraction, coming right up. The lunar hangar doors slid open, and the swift arrow shot out at a speed no human vessel had officially achieved before. Jack guided it directly toward the approaching third wave of Vexari ships, broadcasting on all frequencies. On the Vexari command ship, alarms sounded as sensors detected the swift arrow's approach. Supreme Commander, a single human vessel is approaching at high velocity, reported a Vexari officer. Its technology, the readings cannot be correct. Krazoth leaned forward. Explain. The vessel is using propulsion technology similar to our own. Its speed matches our fastest scout ships. This should not be possible. Intelligence Officer Vornak studied the data with growing concern. It appears the humans have been concealing their true technological capabilities. This may explain how they developed countermeasures to our drives so quickly. Krazoth's 4 eyes narrowed. Target that vessel and destroy it immediately. It must be their prototype weapon. 3 Vexari warships broke formation to intercept the swift arrow. Jack smiled as he saw them approach. His job was to be noticed, and it was working perfectly. They've taken the bait, he reported, beginning evasive maneuvers. The swift arrow danced between energy blasts from the Vexari ships, moving with an agility that shocked the alien gunners. Each near miss allowed the ship's hull to absorb and analyze the Vexari weapon's energy signatures. While the Vexari focused on Jack's dramatic distraction, the 36 modified commercial vessels that Chief Rodriguez had prepared opened their cargo bays. From each one, hundreds of small drones emerged, no larger than a human hand. Together, they formed a swarm of over 10,000 devices. Drone swarm deployed, Allen reported from his command center. Beginning dispersal pattern alpha. The bow. Drones spread out, forming a 3-dimensional net that expanded toward the Vexari fleet. Each drone contained a tiny version of the disruption technology that had disabled the first 2 waves of ships. Individually, they were almost undetectable. Together, they would create a disruption field more powerful than anything the Vexari had yet faced. Meanwhile, Major Lisa Peterson and her team had reached the central data core of the disabled Vexari cruiser. 2 of her team members worked quickly to bypass the alien security systems. Dr. Garcia were in, Lisa reported over her secure channel, downloading their fleet data now. In his laboratory on Earth, Dr. Kevin Garcia received the stream of information. As an expert on alien biology and psychology, he had been tasked with finding vulnerabilities in the Vexari themselves, not just their technology. Excellent work, Major, he replied. The data is coming through clearly. I'm seeing details about their internal ship systems, biological requirements, and... Wait. Kevin leaned closer to his screen, his eyes widening. There's something here about their neural interfaces. The Vexari connect directly to their ship systems. That's a vulnerability we can exploit. On the command ship Trivak, Krazoth's second-in-command approached his leader with disturbing news. Supreme Commander, we have detected a security breach in our network. One of our disabled cruisers has been boarded. The humans are extracting data from its systems. Krazoth slammed his fist on his command console. How? How are these primitives continually one step ahead of us? Our intelligence indicated they would be easy to conquer. Trivak hesitated before responding. I have reviewed our initial intelligence. I believe we made a critical error. What we interpreted as their actual capabilities was entertainment, fiction designed for amusement, not documentation of their true technological level or military doctrine. That's not possible, Krazoth hissed. We conquered 12 worlds, using the same methods. We studied their communications, assessed their technology, and delivered our ultimatum. All others either surrendered or fought predictably and lost. The other species we conquered had no concept of deception or fictional entertainment, Trivak explained. They broadcast only factual information. Humans appeared to be different. As they spoke, the drone swarm reached the outer ships of the third wave. Too small to trigger the Vexari's automated defense systems, the drones attached themselves to the hulls and began emitting their disruption frequencies in perfect synchronization. Jack Morrison continued his wild flight around the Vexari ships, pursuing him, leading them in a complex pattern that drew them away from the main fleet and into the path of Earth's hidden pulse cannon array. Target lock confirmed, General Warren announced from his command center. Pulse cannons firing. The energy pulses struck precisely calculated points in space around the Vexari pursuit ships. Combined with the swift arrows maneuvers, they created a resonance effect that overloaded the alien vessel's shield generators. 3 more Vexari ships disabled, reported Julia Reeves on the Defiance Bridge. The drone swarm has attached to approximately 60% of the third wave. Disruption effect building, Captain Elijah Harper nodded. And Major Peterson's team? They've extracted the data and are withdrawing from the Vexari cruiser, Julia responded. Dr. Garcia is already analyzing the information. He says he's found something important about their neural interfaces. On Earth, Dr. Garcia worked frantically to develop a new countermeasure based on the data from the Vexari ship. Their entire command structure depends on direct neural links between officers and their ship systems, he explained to his team. If we can broadcast a specific frequency pattern that interferes with those neural connections, we can essentially give their entire command structure the equivalent of a migraine. As the battle continued in space, President Laura Bennett met with her advisors in the secure bunker beneath Washington. The early reports of success against the supposedly invincible Vexari fleet had given humanity hope, but she knew the fight was far from over. Captain Harper's unconventional strategy is working, Admiral Palmer reported. But the Vexari still outnumber us and they're adapting. We need to press our advantage while we have it. President Bennett nodded gravely. Authorize Phase 4 of Project Orpheus. It's time to take the fight directly to their command ship. The Vexari command ship shuddered as another wave of disruption pulses swept through its systems. Supreme Commander Krazoth watched in growing horror as his mighty invasion fleet fell into disarray. Of the 120 warships he had brought to conquer Earth, nearly half were now disabled or severely compromised. How is this possible? He demanded, his voice echoing across the command center. These humans were supposed to be primitive. Trivak, his second-in-command, studied the tactical display with a mixture of dread and reluctant admiration. Supreme Commander, I believe we must consider a strategic withdrawal. The humans have demonstrated capabilities far beyond our intelligence. Assessments. Retreat? Krazoth hissed, his scales darkening with rage. The Vexari Dominion does not retreat. In 300 years of conquest, we have never failed. Sir, Trivak persisted, our ships continue to fall to their disruption technology. Our neural interfaces are experiencing interference. And now, our sensors detect another wave of human vessels approaching. On the ESS Defiant, Captain Elijah Harper coordinated the final phase of humanity's defense. All units, this is Captain Harper. Phase 4 is now in effect. Converge on the Vexari command ship. The remaining stealth fighters under Commander Nicole Foster's command regrouped and headed toward the massive alien vessel at the center of the Vexari formation. Each fighter now carried a special payload developed by Dr. Garcia, based on the data extracted from the disabled cruiser. Eagle Squadron, approach vector confirmed, Nicole reported. Neural disruptors armed and ready. At the same time, Major Lisa Peterson led 3 assault teams toward the command ship in specially modified boarding craft. Breach teams in position, she confirmed. Ready to deploy on your mark. Dr. Olivia Wright worked alongside Captain Harper on the Defiance Bridge, monitoring the Vexari communications. Their command structure is starting to break down, she reported. The neural interference is working. They can't coordinate effectively. Elijah nodded grimly. Now's our chance. Commander Foster, Major Peterson, you are clear to proceed. Stealth fighters darted through the chaotic battlefield, evading the still functional Vexari ships. They reached the command ship and released their payloads, small devices that attached to the hull, and began broadcasting the specific frequency pattern that Dr. Garcia had determined would interfere with the Vexari neural interfaces. Inside, the command ship, Krazoth and his officers suddenly clutched their heads in pain as the neural disruption took effect. The connections between their minds and the ship's systems became garbled, filled with noise and false information. We're under attack, Krazoth gasped. Activate secondary command protocols. But before his officers could respond, Major Peterson's teams breached the command ship's hull at 3 different points. The specially trained soldiers moved through the alien vessel with precision, neutralizing resistance with non-lethal sonic weapons designed specifically to incapacitate Vexari physiology. On Earth, President Laura Bennett stood in the Global Command Center, watching the battle unfold on the massive tactical display. Admiral Palmer stood beside her, his face tense but hopeful. "It's working," he said quietly. Captain Harper's strategy was brilliant, using their own technology against them, targeting their neural interfaces rather than trying to match their firepower. Laura nodded. "When this is over, remind me to give that young captain a promotion." In orbit, Jack Morrison continued to fly the Swift Arrow in increasingly complex patterns around the remaining functional Vexari vessels, drawing their fire and attention while the assault teams did their work. His ship's advanced hull absorbed the energy from near misses, using it to power its own systems in a feedback loop that the Vexari had never encountered before. "They're starting to catch on to my patterns," Jack reported, "but I think I've bought enough time." Major Peterson's team reached the central command center of the Vexari flagship. Using Dr. Garcia's neural disruptors at close range, they incapacitated the alien officers before they could mount an effective defense. "Command center secured," Lisa reported, her voice tense but controlled. "Supreme Commander Krezoth has been captured." On the Defiant, Elijah and Olivia exchanged a look of cautious hope. "Open a channel to all remaining Vexari vessels," Elijah ordered. When the connection was established, he spoke clearly and firmly. "Attention, Vexari fleet. Your command ship has been captured. Your Supreme Commander is in our custody. Half your fleet has been disabled using technology you didn't believe we possessed. You have two options: continue fighting and lose more ships and lives, or stand down and accept our terms." There was a long pause. Then Trivak's voice came through the communication system. "This is Acting Commander Trivak. What are your terms, humans?" 8 hours later, President Bennett stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The chamber was packed with delegates from every nation, all eager to hear the outcome of humanity's first interstellar conflict. "Today," she began, "humanity faced its greatest challenge. An alien force came to our world expecting an easy conquest. They thought they understood us based on our entertainment, our stories, our films. They expected us to either surrender immediately or fight in predictable ways they could easily counter." She paused, looking around the room. Instead, they encountered the true spirit of humanity. Our creativity, our adaptability, our ability to improvise and work together when faced with a common threat. These qualities, more than any weapon or technology, are what saved Earth today. In a secure conference room nearby, Captain Elijah Harper sat across from Trivak, who now represented the defeated Vexari forces. Dr. Olivia Wright served as translator and diplomatic liaison. "Your terms are unusual," Trivak said, studying the document before him. "No territorial concessions, no demand for our technology, only the release of the worlds you've conquered and a non-aggression pact." Elijah nodded. "We don't want your empire. We want peaceful coexistence. The other species you conquered deserve their freedom, and we want assurance that you understand that attacking Earth again would be a mistake." Trivak's 4 eyes blinked, in a pattern that Olivia recognized as thoughtful consideration. "In all our history, we have never encountered a species like yours. The others we conquered were predictable. You were not." "That's humanity's greatest strength," Olivia explained. "We imagine countless possibilities, prepare for the unexpected, and adapt to changing circumstances. Our battle narratives that you studied, they weren't reports of actual strategies, they were explorations of what might be possible." Later that evening, as Earth celebrated its unexpected victory, Captain Harper stood on the observation deck of the Defiant, looking down at the blue planet below. Admiral Palmer joined him, holding 2 glasses of champagne. He handed one to Elijah. "Congratulations, Admiral Harper." Elijah raised an eyebrow. "Admiral?" Palmer smiled. "The promotion goes into effect tomorrow," President Bennett insisted. "You're going to lead our new interstellar defense force. The Vexari won't be the last aliens we encounter, and next time we should be better prepared." Elijah accepted the glass and looked back at Earth. The Vexari made one fundamental mistake. They thought they knew us because they watched our movies and TV shows. They never realized that imagination is humanity's greatest weapon. We don't just accept reality as it is, we envision how it could be different, and then we make it happen. Two men raised their glasses in a toast as below them, the lights of Earth's cities glowed against the darkness of night, a beacon of humanity's enduring spirit in the vast cosmos.